This is David Hucks reporting with MyrtleBeachSC.com. This week, the verdict of stand your ground between Mr. Rabin and Mr. David, two hotel owners who own properties on 7th Avenue, the area that's being redeveloped, is a story of two different Myrtle Beach area persons. One gentleman who came to town, spent a lot of his resources developing and redeveloping properties, both at a hotel and one in the super block. Another one of a gentleman who had lived off his parents' wealth, then the wealth and hard work of his sister, and now is looking to hopefully get a great civil judgment from Mr. David because of an attack that happened at the super block, a place where Mr. David owns properties. Mr. David was asking for a stand your ground verdict. Mr. Rabin was hoping that verdict could not be achieved. The judge decided, Judge Stephen John decided that Mr. David, even though he was attacked for a minute and 34 seconds on site and had a body camera that recorded it, could not use that defense. Mr. Rabin had brought with him a gun, brass knuckles, a sack of knives, to confront Mr. David at his property where he was working. A camcorder audio that Mr. David was holding could not be used as evidence because it was inaudible. Our own team has looked at audio enhancement equipment, and we realized that the product can be enhanced for mere pennies. The defendant's lawyer, the courtroom, the defendant's lawyer, the defendant, and people in the courtroom could hear Mr. David saying, "Show me your hands, show me your hands," which is an important piece of evidence. Mr. David said he believed Mr. Rabin had a gun. Mr. Rabin did have a gun in his truck. Evidence showed he had not fired it, but Mr. David believed he was going to fire it. Mr. David claims he showed him his weapon as he entered his truck. The judge ultimately claimed, as well as Mr. Alan Amick, that the audio of the camcorder Mr. David had was inaudible. However, it was played in the courtroom, and those in the courtroom could faintly hear Mr. David saying, "Show me your hands, show me your hands, get on the ground." It was faint, and we wonder why the city, in such a high-profile case, in an area the city has claimed it's buying and has proven it is, and is redeveloping with very suspicious circumstances, why they would not enhance the audio so that this could be determined. It was peculiar to our team. We've gone on site, though, to explain the story, and we'll take you on site now. The Sea Palms Hotel was inherited by Jack Rabin from his mother, Peggy, and his father, Jack Isaiah Rabin. The only thing that separated the Sea Palms from the Oasis was this street. This street is currently going to be the main entrance into Myrtle Beach. The city of Myrtle Beach, through a tax, is going to make this the straightway entrance into town. It's going to be completely revamped. Everything that you see here will ultimately be torn down. David himself owns this hotel, the Oasis.
Shai David takes pride in maintaining his motel and the property it's on, but David is concerned by what he sees outside his front door.
Is this the image we want to have for the city of Myrtle Beach?
David says this is a common sight around his property. Parking spots with city-owned parking meters have fallen into disrepair. And in some extreme cases like this one, you can't even see the parking meter because of overgrown vegetation and trash. In January, Myrtle Beach city leaders began cracking down on property owners with tougher code enforcement rules, a way to make sure properties are maintained more consistently. But as far as David can see, the city hasn't been following its own rules.
I think the city has a responsibility to be a role model and to actually show what's the right way to take care of things.
We took his concerns to city spokesperson Mark Crua.
Well, I think he has a point that we need to make sure that we're maintaining the public property, and we do. There's just a lot of it to maintain.
Crua says the city is aware of David's concerns.
We know that that area needs some attention, so we're gearing up to do that sooner rather than later.
David says it wouldn't take much. He says even if the city made small improvements, it would make a big difference.
Just like a little bit of paint, a little bit of landscaping, some trash cans and so forth. And I'm not asking it because it makes my business look better. I'm asking it because it makes the city look better.
Okay, so what we see here are two city workers, Mr. Bruce Arnell and Mr. Bruce Bullino. You'll see they stop here at the Oasis, and you'll watch while Mr. Bruce Arnell kicks the rail and kicks it out of place, and then Mr. Bullino takes a picture. So here's that same arrival on July the 9th, 2 days after Mr. David's complained about the area. It's 9:19 a.m. This is the same exact arrival from a different camera angle. Once again, you can see, I believe that's Mr. Bullino pulling in now. You can see the gentlemen as they've left their cars, passing the office. The fire marshal, Mr. Arnell, is on the phone. The construction services manager is looking out. It appears that they're scouting the place somewhat, but not intently. Mr. Arnell is looking up, but on the phone. Now he is off the phone, and we can see him. Did they check him with the office? No. We don't know who he was on the phone with. Here they're speaking with a maintenance man for the property. They just walked past him. And here come Mr. Arnell, fire marshal, and Mr. Bullino back from making their rounds. You can see them now headed up the stairway. Once again, they have not checked in with ownership. You can see them look at railings. They're inspecting things. And once again, please note, this is a July 9th date, and we are told by ownership that they had full occupancy. Every room in the property was rented. Now we can see the fire marshal looking through windows, pushing on doors. He's way back in the back of the camera, but you can make him out. And now the construction services manager also comes up the stairs with his camera. You can see Mr. Bullino is taking pictures while Mr. Arnell, the fire marshal, is actually knocking on doors. He's actually knocking on a door at the end of the building. And now he is joined. Once again, he has not checked in with the owners. He's knocking randomly on guest doors. Okay, now he's speaking to someone. And at 9:35, you can now see one of the vehicles exiting the property. This is on July the 15th, 2:08. This is a week after. You can see the guests are moving around. The hotel is full. They have full occupancy. It's the middle of July. We can see Mr. Bruce Arnell pull up, get out of his vehicle, and he begins to head off camera. Not clear where he's headed, but oh, here comes in another car. Mr. Arnell heads back. Two city officers are now on here. He speaks with the guests. He's talking, he's pointing, and this is one of the customers, so obviously she's not overly informed, but he speaks with her. Does he go in the office? No. He now gets on the phone again. Is he calling the hotel owner? We don't know. do know that we have Mr. Bullino, City Construction Services, here once again with his camera. It does appear that they're talking with the guest. And here comes another guest. They're now reading a sign on the window. The sign informs them that the person at the desk has stepped out. They have full occupancy. Okay, so now they head back up the stairwell. This is the stairwell they broke the railing on 1 week earlier. Once again, it is a very pleasant summer day, the absolute middle of July. You can see that guests are just enjoying their time around the resort. We are told the resort was fully occupied. Seems to be a great time to be in Myrtle Beach. We have a young woman sitting in front of the office reading her iPhone. We have people walking the property. These are customers. And clearly the place is not deserted. And here they return. They've made their rounds and now they're returning. And they've engaged the woman who is sitting again with the shades on. Once again, they haven't reached out to ownership that we're aware of. And they're once again engaging the woman who is sitting. And now they are getting her to stand. She is clearly not an employee of the property. As you can tell by her dress, she's now sitting out on the bench. And they continue. Bicyclers, people are enjoying their stay with her. Finally, these two gentlemen head off in a different direction. It's unclear what they were doing on property, but we do know that 1 week earlier they had broken the property's rail. And here they've come back. They've made their rounds. It's now 2:38 on the 15th. And the young lady's still on the phone. And now these gentlemen have decided to leave. Mr. David would later sell the property to a man named Noam Payed, whose realtor works on the board of the DRC. We're told now the DRC has a contract on this property and plans to demolish it.